په چوکاټ کې پابند واوسیږي زموږ د خواندو مندو هغه حقوق چې الله جل جلاله په شریعت کې ورکړي دي او زموږ د ملت د ارزښتونه ایجابوي.
Everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. They say democracy is not perfect, but it is the best launch pad we have to create an equitable and fair society. For 20 years, Afghanistan experienced democracy and freedom under the protection of US forces. There was widespread corruption, breakdown of governance, and social struggles. But the people of Afghanistan, namely women and minorities, experienced an empowerment. A voice that was equipping them to create a better country which for decades has been scarred by war. With the exit of US forces and the Taliban's swift return to power, that project is now dead in the water. The dark ages of oppression are back, and it is the women of Afghanistan who are facing the atrocities they believed was history. In a bid to gain legitimacy, the Taliban did go on a PR offensive to reassure the globe that it will protect the rights of women under the Sharia law, even giving them representation in the government and protect their right to study and work. But an all-male Taliban government has taken shape in Afghanistan, many of them men who brutalized women and minorities during the previous regime through their perversion of Islam. In fact, many of them are UN-designated terrorists, which throws the big question before the world: how will they recognize this regime? In fact, the Taliban has omitted the Ministry of Women Affairs and replaced it with the Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. Oppression is being turned into state policy in Afghanistan, and the world is a mute spectator, with women and children facing the brunt. As per the UN Refugee Agency, close to 200,000 Afghan women and children have been forced to flee their homes since the end of May. Local clerics have been ordered to draw up a list of Afghan girls to marry off to Taliban fighters. Students are being segregated in classes at Kabul University with a sheet dividing the men and women. Salons are being shut down with the images of women sprayed with black paint, and Afghan women will not be permitted to play sports including cricket, which as per the Taliban will expose their bodies to the media. Women are fighting back against the oppression of the Taliban with protests across the country. But with the absence of international support, there won't be any Arab Spring moment in Afghanistan anytime soon. Taliban's enforcers are cracking down on the protesters, killing and injuring women with impunity, with a clear mindset of enforcing Sharia with brute force no matter what. Is Afghanistan no longer a country for women? That's what I ask. And what will it take for the global powers who committed themselves to safeguarding the people of the country to make good on their promise? Mehbooba Siraj is an activist, director of Afghan Women's Skills Development Center. She is joining me from Kabul. We have Heather Bar. She is interim co-director of the Women's Rights Division at Human Rights Watch and a researcher on Afghanistan. Khadija Amin is an Afghan journalist. She is joining me from Spain. I'm going to begin with you, Mehbooba Siraj. When you and I spoke 2 weeks back, you had said that you doubted whether Taliban would keep its word about allowing women to be educated and work. And not a single woman in their government, when they had invited women to join their government, you can say, I told you so.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say I told you so, because, I mean, this is something that not only I, but everybody in the world really knew that. And this is maybe the point that I have as far as, you know, as the biggest complaint that the Afghan women have from the world is this, is like you knew what was going to be happening. I mean, this is not something entirely new or coming from somewhere that nobody was expecting it. This is something very much expected to be happening. I mean, the Ministry of Women's Affairs disappeared. We don't have a Ministry of Women's Affairs anymore. And of course, thinking that a woman is going to be in this cabinet, of course, that is not there either. So here we are, left literally very alone, without any support. I mean, apart from the international support that we do have, outside, and you guys that are giving reports about us, but that's about it. So our young girls, our daughters are going on the streets, and don't forget, that's the generation actually that has no idea about the Taliban, because they did not suffer under the whips of Taliban. They were not the ones, because they were not even born at that time, or if they were very. So that's why for them, completely new, is brand new, and how long they can go on, like how long they're raising their voice, they are going to. But Afghanistan to go is the most important connection. That where Afghanistan is going to go. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that must be a question for all of the neighbors. I mean, everybody all around. So isn't it going to affect the people? I mean, the countries around us, I'm sure it is. Isn't it going to affect the world? I'm sure it is. So where are we? What are we?
Mr. Raj,
and this is
you have certainly really displayed indomitable spirit and courage, I would say, by choosing to stay back in Afghanistan. Would you say that the world owes it to the thousands of women who have chosen to stay in Afghanistan and those who have no choice but to stay?
Absolutely. But then, these words don't really mean anything anymore. I mean, apart from I happen to be the one that have chosen, so that has nothing to do with anything, and I'm not holding anybody responsible. But by God, there is as I always say, 116,000 people left this country, with the American planes or whatever planes they were available at the airport, and the first 2 weeks, the first 10 days of the whole Taliban takeover. And in those planes, none of the human rights defenders, none of the civil society activists, none of the women human rights defenders, none of the judges, nobody were in that group. So I'm just wondering, who did they take out? I mean, they took out a lot of people, and I'm sure amongst them there are really some people that they really do deserve to be out. But at the same time, I know that there are people in there that absolutely don't deserve to be out, or for them wouldn't have made really much of a difference in one way or another. So I don't know. And these people are stuck here, and now for the world to say that they're going to be standing next to them or behind them or on top of their head, it really doesn't make any difference, because as far as I'm concerned, we are left alone, and that's all there is to it. So really, this was a plan of the world. That's how it was planned, actually, that United States wanted to get out of Afghanistan, just to the war got too long, and I know, and that was one of the reasons. So okay, the war is too long, fine. So we are going to leave you and just get along with your own people. That's who they are. So get along.
I'm going to come back to you.
Here we are. Trying to get along.
Let me get a word also from other panelists. Heather Bar, there's a sense of abandonment, clearly, as you heard from Ms. Siraj. How should the world use all the leverage it has to ensure that Afghan women don't become just a footnote in the violent politics of this strife-torn nation?
So there's a challenging effort ahead to try and do that, and it's complicated by several things. One is that one thing that donors must not do is make an already horrible humanitarian situation even worse. There are 3.1 million Afghan children who are at risk of severe malnourishment, and this situation is becoming worse because the international community has blocked their funding to Afghanistan following the Taliban takeover. So one of the urgent tasks is to figure out how to not make that situation even more dire. And then at the same time, the international community needs to be figuring out what leverage it does have over the Taliban, and that may be in the form of aid, it may be in the form of sanctions, it may be in the form of political recognition, access to the international banking system, et cetera. And it needs to use that leverage not just for counterterrorism efforts, but for efforts to try to some extent, protect human rights. And we haven't seen the kind of political will and the kind of unity in the international community that's necessary for that to happen. And we need that to happen and happen very quickly.
Khadija, you know, in the last 20 years, women had reclaimed their lives from the first Taliban rule. And in the last 2 weeks, we had seen Taliban try and project themselves as a new Taliban, a changed Taliban, a Taliban 2.0. Would you say today, after having seen the farce of a government yesterday, that it was just a PR exercise?
Thank you for having me in this show. As I said that before, that the Taliban never changed. Although they are saying that we are changed, we are not the Taliban who were 20 years ago. But unfortunately, yesterday when I saw the list of their cabinet, so there was not any woman. And also they erased the women ministry. So it means that the Taliban never changed, and they are not trustable pupils that we can trust them that they are changed, and after this they will allow the women and they will give the rights for the women. But unfortunately they never change, and it seems that after this, when their cabinet, when their government became accepted from the other countries, so after this they will also do such kind of things, and they will erase the women from every part that the woman was working. So right now they are separated the classes that the women, the boys and girls are not, they can't study together in the universities, and also many other things that it shows that the Taliban never changed, and they didn't have and they didn't want to be they didn't want to accept that the woman have rights, and also the woman can work. So in these 2 weeks I saw and I was waiting for this, that maybe in the new cabinet there will be a place for women. But unfortunately, the Taliban never changed, and they are the person who are 20 years ago.
Yes. And Ms. Siraj, would you say that everything that the Taliban had said, or maybe saying that they are saying that this is an interim government, is questionable? Its idea of personal freedom is at variance with that of most Afghan women. And many women's groups believe that the United Nations and other human rights organizations can perhaps push much harder on that issue.
I really, you know, maybe they could, and maybe they should also. But at this point, I don't really see anything because in a way, the way everything is going, at the same time, not all the rights are taken away from the woman. You know what I'm saying? So, in other words, for the United Nations to take a very strong stance really does not mean anything, because in reality, you know, the Taliban can turn around and say exactly what did we do, you know, and what are you asking us to do? I mean, right now we are in the middle, it's a change of a whole regime system in this country, like the same way that, you know, the speaker said, you know, right now is a bad time to even have demonstrations. So they have all of these answers, you know, their answers are there, and they really haven't done anything, you know, to give a reason for the international community to go after it and say, well, this is where we went wrong. Because everything that is done in a way that stops, you know, of course, the growth, the personal right, the advancement, the anything about women, not only about women. I mean, this is all for the men as well, but women mainly, of course, at this point. So yeah, so they don't have anything like that in their hands. So what they're going to do, the international community, I have a feeling the international community are not going to do anything. They're just going to just wait and see if there's going to be any other action taken by them that will be maybe stronger, or maybe will give them actual a reason to step in.
So,
if they don't,
then
if they don't give them
how
a
do you
solid
view
reason
this
to step in, the international
this
community
statement that was issued by United Nations, in which they denounced the decision to not include women in the administration, and the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan in fact stressed that durable peace in the country depends on inclusive governance with meaningful participation of women and youth?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything anymore, because this government is not, is not all inclusive, doesn't have women, and as far as the inclusivity is concerned, it doesn't even have other Taliban from any other parts of the country. I think one or two that if they are involved, but most of them are just the Taliban from from different groups within the Taliban. So it's like there is no other involvement of other groups in this group at all. Just the Taliban.
Okay.
So I don't know what the word means, and I don't know how it's taken by the Taliban here. I don't even know how much is the clout that the world will have on the Taliban. I have no idea.
Okay.
And I don't think they're going to be using that, because they don't want to destabilize Afghanistan more than what it is at this point. So here we go.
Okay.
And we are,
then in that case,
we're right
what
so
would you tell those who are suggesting setting up of some kind of an international force, somewhat akin to a peacekeeping mission to attempt to safeguard women's rights in Afghanistan? It may not work, but there has to be a concerted effort instead of just a wait and watch approach, because women there are almost going to lose their hard-won gains, and world leaders must speak up. They cannot get away with some kind of wishy-washy statements. Ms. Barr.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were asking me. Apologies. No, so I think that the UN has to play a much stronger role than it has, and the mandate for UNAMA is up for renewal on September 17th. And that will be a very important moment. UNAMA already has authorization to monitor the human rights situation, to do so across the country. But what's really needed right now is for the Security Council and the rest of the international community to put pressure on the Taliban to accept that UNAMA will be playing that role going forward, and to insist that UNAMA has the resources and the staffing and the space to actually perform that function. We have to know what's actually happening in Afghanistan, especially to women and girls. And one of the frightening things that's been happening is that the Taliban has been silencing the local media. The international media is only present for the most part in the capital. And I think we're going to see our access to information really disappearing in the days ahead. And we're at risk of just not even knowing what kinds of abuses are happening. So we really need the United Nations to step up, and the United Nations can only do that if they have a mandate from the member states.
Then who will be monitoring them?
Who will be monitoring UNAMA, or who will be monitoring the Taliban?
Who will be monitoring whatever is going wrong in the country?
So this is why I'm saying that the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, they should have offices set up in every province, and they should be monitoring what's happening in each province, particularly on women's rights, but also on other human rights. And they should be reporting publicly on a regular basis what their findings are.
Okay. Mehbooba Siraj, during Taliban 1.0, we saw the atrocities, including them hanging the serving president, who was hanged from a lamppost after trying him in roadside kangaroo court. Now, these courts will be all over Afghanistan, and the fear is that most of these would be patriarchal kangaroo courts directed against women in particular and minorities in general. So, gender minorities as far as women are concerned, and minorities, religious minorities as well. How do women then negotiate that space? What will you be doing? Or what will you be teaching or telling your people?
At this point, I'm not really doing anything by just holding on to what it is that we have and trying to make it work with the power that right now is in Afghanistan. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to work with them to see how we can work together, if it's possible. And besides, with the president of Afghanistan, Dr. Najib, when he was hanged, that was not the Afghans that hanged Dr. Najib, that was the Pakistanis who hanged Dr. Najib. So, so this is also, it's another one of those things that, with the coming of the Pakistan, ISI general in Afghanistan, that's why everybody in this country, they went crazy, because the reason is that, okay, Taliban, you're here, but why did you have to bring Pakistan and involve them into the Afghanistan situation? So they are also involved now. So we don't even know, what is going on, and really we don't know what is going on. Whatever it is, there are some really nasty things are being cooked up right now in Afghanistan, and those things we are going to find out about it pretty soon. It's just that the only thing is that I hope it is not too late for everybody to be doing something about it. Whether it is that we are going to get along with the Taliban, we are going to agree with them, we are going to work with them, or we are not, or we are going to all die, or they are going to kill us, or whatever it is. I just don't want it to be like a surprise, like the way the Taliban arrived in this country and the way we lost Afghanistan's war in a matter of 48 hours. 4 provinces fell. So there's other hands playing in here. I just don't know who those other hands are, and I don't think we will find out right now. And I don't want to go to this like it's a conspiracy, that I'm trying to solve. It's not like that. It is something, and it's going to come out, and it will come out. But I don't know what it is right now. But whatever it is extremely, extremely powerful, and it's really very complicated. And here we are. So the people of Afghanistan, the women of Afghanistan, the young of this country, the children of Afghanistan, they're all victims at this point. So here we are. We are the victims, and we are just watching.
Mehbooba Siraj, I have just 30 seconds for you, and I'm going to give that to you because women are being considered an object like a melon, as mentioned by one of their ministers, and are to be treated like an object. I have no word to say.
I know. They are being, we are just objects. We really are. Nobody wants to look at us when they talk to us. Nobody wants to talk to us. We are, I don't know who we are, what we are, and why are we in this situation? Why women has to be like this? I don't understand it. I don't understand this whole philosophy. What happened? Why did this happen? So it's just like, it's like really very sad, very sad. And we are caught. We really are caught. We're just stuck here, and we're watching the world. And I don't know what the United Nations is going to do. I don't know whether the mandate is going to be done soon. Hopefully 17th of September is going to be coming up soon enough. Whether the mandate is going to have some teeth or not, that's also for us to see, and for the world to make it. Might not have really a bite to it like other mandates.
Joining me on the show, Mehbooba Siraj. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, and thank you for sending a message to the world at large. Mehbooba Siraj, Heather Bar, and Khadija, thank you for sharing all your experience. Afghan women talking about what is going wrong on ground. Very strong words there coming from Mehbooba Siraj. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching.